Welcome, everyone. It's John Pollock here, as always, joined by Jimmy Korderas. It's our WWE Hell in a Cell preview coming up Sunday night in Boston at the TD Garden.
The Garden.
The Garden, yes.
You got to get the Garden.
I don't know if
where they park the car in the yard.
Wow, this is a veteran here of the Massachusetts scene. Yeah. A bit of a break here in between shows, Jimmy. I mean, 3 weeks, I'll take it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're rolling right along. And when's the next one after this? It's another...
Well, then we got Survivor Series after this one, and then 2 in December to close out the year.
Right.
And however many other specials they have between now and WrestleMania. It's going to be a frequent stop of pay-per-view shows. Yep. So heading into Hell in a Cell, first of all, the idea of 3 Hell in a Cell matches, where do you stand on the amount of cell matches that they're presenting on Sunday night?
I get where people say that the name of the pay-per-view is Hell in a Cell. Why not have several matches? But at the same time, when you have 3 matches like that on the same show, you've got the challenge of making each one different and unique, and which will happen because one of them is a women's match, which we will talk about. But at the same time, it kind of desensitizes the specialness and the uniqueness of having a Hell in a Cell match. You know, for me, it would be more special to have one cell match every year and maybe have a second at a WrestleMania, for example, or something like that. But to have 3 cell matches in the same night, it just overkill for me. Yeah,
let's actually start with the Sasha Banks-Charlotte match. First of all, if you're positioning this card, we are in Boston. It's been hinted at, teased, but not actually stated that this will go on last. But do you think that is the best place to put this match?
Not at this time. I mean, like, people might disagree with me, but it almost feels like that they are trying to further this agenda, the women's match main eventing a pay-per-view. It's almost being forced. Mm-hmm. And, at the same time, putting that match in a cell, in Hell in a Cell, is also feeling forced to me as well. It's not, and I don't want to sound like the chauvinist guy that women shouldn't be in cages and it's inappropriate for them. I get the fact that women's wrestling is evolving and getting to that stage where they're on an equal playing field with the men. That's not the problem. The problem is they went from point A to Z, or Z here in Canada, without progressing. Like, you go from regular wrestling matches to 2 or 3 falls to maybe some kind of stipulation match where there's like falls count anywhere or something like that. They went straight from a wrestling match to Hell in a Cell, and with even a cage match or something for the women. There was no progression to get to that Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I would say they were certainly on their way to that. And then this title change that they did a number of weeks back on TV threw that out the window, where you had constantly you had Dana interfering on Charlotte's behalf. She's escaping with the title by the skin of her teeth. And to me, this was building to that final point where Dana's eliminated. There's a necessity for the cage match. Mm-hmm. Charlotte has no way out at this point. And here you have it in Boston, Sasha going for that title to beat Charlotte, who's undefeated on pay-per-view. It seemed that was the direction they were going, and I think you really lost some of that when you already did the title change for free on television, and now she's defending the title, and instead of this being a natural blow-off to a feud, it's been we want to make history inside the cell match, which I think there is a disconnect. If you grew up where cage matches were this violent final blow-off to a program, I think the idea of this being making history and this honor, it's like you would never equate those kinds of thoughts to a First Blood match, an I Quit match, a street fight. We want to make history by having the first women's First Blood match. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that's where some people might look at this as just not the most convenient way to build this up, as this kind of statement about the division as a whole, as opposed to this what should be the end of a violent program, which most equate with a Hell in a Cell structure.
Right, and going off of what happened Monday and Mick Foley's passionate promo, explained to the ladies the reason he's in the physical state he's in is primarily because of matches such as Hell in a Cell. It's almost like I feel that so much pressure is being put on these ladies to deliver, and I'm not saying they won't deliver. They're going to deliver. They're both very talented. The pressure is there where they may take it that extra level. I know Sasha Banks has been tweeting out lately that she's willing to, pay the price to make this match great. And I'm just worried that they're going to go above and beyond to the point where they're just physically going to hurt themselves, which is, what I don't want.
Yeah, they've really kind of dangled it out there for the expectations to be very high. And you do have to be very creative. A, because of the fact you do have 3 cell matches, and you don't want to be kind of stepping over each other with ideas and stories in the match. But also, I mean, I don't really expect blood, and you're certainly handcuffed to a degree of what these cell matches can be. And the frame of reference so many fans have of Hell in a Cell are, rightly or wrongly, it is those Foley dives off of the cell or big spectacular spots. Just this past year with Shane McMahon.
Exactly.
That is your frame of reference and your expectation level. So anything short of that, I think people almost view it as a letdown, which to me, I don't, because I don't like those kinds of big stunts that are just done there for that reason.
Right.
Where you yourself have set the bar so high for what people should expect that someone doesn't get tossed off of this cage or jumps off, somehow it doesn't meet our expectations that the company has set itself up with.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree totally.
So you don't feel it will go on last. What does go on last? Do you put the Universal title match in that position? And do you feel the audience not getting that on last might be negative to whatever follows the women's match?
Well, of course, the audience is going to be negative to whatever they.
It could be a Jimmy Korderas night on Twitter.
Oh, absolutely, like any other Monday night or any other pay-per-view. I mean, like, why not? See, I don't want to go off on a tangent on the audience because they just. At times, they just seem to crap on something just for the sake of crapping on it.
I do feel, though, that this past Monday in Minneapolis, like that to me was a lesson that I don't think anyone could have been stunned by the reaction Brock got in Minneapolis. So while you may not agree with how the audience, might turn on a show,
right.
You have to go into Sunday with that as a realistic possibility that here in Boston, that crowd may want to see Sasha on last. And if we don't put it on last, we better be anticipating that reaction and have a way to deal with it.
I totally agree because it seems to me that I like to call it strategic town booking. And the WWE has been horrible at it lately. Take Monday night, for example. You know that Brock, okay, he's technically from South Dakota. We know, but he went to school in Minnesota. Minnesota is technically his home turf. What were you expecting, especially in this day and age with the audience who is, more in tune with the backstage goings on or the smarter audience?
It almost feels like
makes no sense.
It felt just on Monday like a stubbornness on the side of the company that, I mean, they are not dumb people. I mean, to look at Brock Lesnar, Minneapolis, what kind of reaction do you think that'll be? And I heard from people live at the event that were stating that earlier in the night, there were some Goldberg chants, but they were countered with the big Suplex City chants. And this was like earlier in the night, and they were chanting Suplex City during the Superstars tapings. So, I mean, you have to go in understanding it, and it felt like Monday, and we're getting off track here. It just felt like we're going to ignore this. We have our plans. And I just hope for Sunday, if it becomes a negative reaction because the women go on earlier in the night, you have to go in anticipating that.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance that happens, especially if you decide to put a Roman Reigns Rusev on last because you're going to get that Roman Reigns backlash as well.
I almost feel that opens the show.
That I think it should. I mean, but that said, that is of the 3 cell matches, that's the one that seems to be the one that should have been in the cell to begin with because that's the rivalry that needed a finality to it.
Yeah, I'd be with you. I don't feel Owens and Rollins needed it. I think it was just a reaction that, it's the top title match, so it gets the cell treatment as well. Didn't need it. I was glad Kevin Owens did that promo on Monday with Tom Phillips backstage. It was the first kind of serious promo about the cell. And to me in this, I think the best thing going on Raw at the moment is Owens and Chris Jericho. And Seth Rollins just finds himself in this position where he's the transition guy. We've got to get through this show and continue on with the Owens-Jericho story because that, to me, is what everyone is invested in. And Rollins, he feels like this lame duck challenger at the moment.
Yeah, for the moment he does. And the stuff with Jericho and Kevin Owens has been gold. I mean, it's amazing the chemistry. When they talk about, finding lightning in a bottle. That's what they found with this Jericho and Kevin Owens thing. I don't think it was the original plan for them to go on this path, but you know what? It's working, and go with it. And Jericho's doing. The amazing thing about Jericho is his reinventing himself. Every time he comes back, it's like it's the same Jericho with a twist. Now it's he's got that the Bon Jovi haircut with the Mickey Rourke vest and the whole. It's got this combination look going, but this kind of, I hate to put it this way, but it's kind of like a D-bag look that works for him. And you know, he's the kind of heel that can get over as much as people want to cheer him. He still gets the negative crowd reaction, you know, which is a big challenge nowadays. But I could see, obviously, they're setting up down the road for a Jericho, Kevin Owens feud or rivalry. It's going to be interesting to see Jericho as a babyface in this current iteration.
And looking at this beyond Hell in a Cell, and you figure Chris Jericho somehow is involved in this on Sunday night, is that, yes, you do have Toronto booked next month for Survivor Series, and I've been talking about it for a long time, that this, to me, would be a great time to do that match, and someone that will the audience will side against Owens by getting behind Jericho. But as we're getting closer, I almost think it might be too soon to do this. This program has a lot of legs to it. We haven't done the breakup yet. It just seems that after Sunday, we've got 3 weeks. Do you really want to race through a breakup and set up a match at Survivor Series in 3 weeks? I think you could carry this out to the Rumble, no problem.
At least to the Rumble, yeah.
And, I mean, long-term storylines, it's not something that happens too often, and you're given something that feels fresh every week, and it's not being forced. And you've got something great here. So if they opt to just put those two on the Raw team, I'm not going to be that upset about it next month.
No, I think that's the best way to go. I think everything is so rushed nowadays. I like the slow burn, and maybe, you know, try to re-educate the audience into accepting storylines that take a little longer to develop.
And you don't need it at Survivor Series.
No.
The show is sold out. You've got your attraction in the main event. If you're trying to attract more subscribers for a bit of a boost at Survivor Series,
right.
I don't think it's necessary for 3 weeks from now, even though it's in an ideal location. You know what? The Rumble's a really big stage too, and it's going to need some big stuff as well.
Right.
So I guess we're beating around the bush here that Owens retains on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't see a title change there. I think, we were talking about, it's Owens, Jericho down the road.
And just hearkening back to the women's title match, Sasha retaining in your estimation?
Yeah, I think so.
Beats Charlotte for the first time on pay-per-view.
Yeah, it goes against the hometown jinx in the WWE.
Well, they got that out of their system with Curtis Axel this
There you
week.
go.
So they'll allow now a hometown favorite to actually win in their hometown. The third Hell in a Cell match you mentioned, Rusev challenging Roman Reigns for the U.S. title. I could definitely see this opening up the show. I think these two have worked very well together. I think in particular the lengthy Raw match they had about a month ago after Night of Champions. And I thought they work a very good style together. I definitely feel that this is going to be the anti-Roman crowd on Sunday, and that going in, that's almost a given. Rusev has been so entertaining in this role, maybe too entertaining for the role you want him in, but I just think he's been fantastic. I think this could be a bit of a sleeper on the show, potentially, but I think opening up the show is the best place to do this, and I wouldn't have this be a big 25-minute affair. I would have this a really fast-paced, hard-hitting match, and maybe it goes under 15 minutes, and you don't necessarily dedicate 20-plus minutes to each cage match, because I would figure the latter two are going to get a lot of time, and this one maybe doesn't need it.
No, I don't think it does. I agree with that. And like you said, Rusev has been fantastic. I was a little taken aback on Monday night when his promos felt very babyface.
Totally.
I mean, if
you're just listening to this in a bubble, you'd totally be rooting against this guy. I mean, here it is, Roman Reigns comes out, disrespects your wife, and now he's defending the honor of his wife, and he's fighting for his country. Right. It's like, why wouldn't you root against this guy? And then, he gave you no reason to.
And then conversely, Roman Reigns comes out and not really heelish, but still, between the two, it came off more heelish than Rusev's. But that being said, going to Sunday's matchup, I really like that. As JR would say, this is going to be a slobber knocker. This is going to be two guys with a hard-hitting style. And The one thing that Roman Reigns doesn't get a lot of credit for is his selling and his timing, which I think is really, really good. And against a guy like Rusev, that will come into play, especially in this environment of Hell in a Cell. Like you said, I think this is going to be maybe not match of the night, but sleeper match of the night, at least anyways.
Then we've got the tag title match with the New Day against Cesaro and Sheamus. I don't think they're looking at any title change until December, when they can either beat the record or come right up to it. I mean, they're pushing that too hard for me to just throw that out the window after a year plus of building to this. So I expect them to retain on Sunday, and this tag division just goes along, and probably Cesaro and Sheamus get numerous more title opportunities after Sunday.
And if you go to old school booking 101, the fact that the champions were pinned clean on Monday night means they go over on Sunday.
Well, that made sense on Raw. What didn't make sense on Raw was Brian Kendrick losing to Rich Swann. That enough was a little perplexing, given that he's challenging for the title and Swann is not on the show. But then we got the backstage segment where Kendrick stating that he's just past his prime, and the only way he can win is if TJ Perkins lays down for him on Sunday. And that was our cliffhanger that we are left with for Sunday night, of whether Perkins is going to allow Kendrick to beat him or not. I hated this, Jimmy. I just think everything, all the goodwill you created with the Cruiserweight Classic, I just feel none of it was learned from. And this is just the WWE's painful way of trying to integrate their thought process into this Cruiserweight division. I was not a fan of this on Monday.
No, I'm happy for a guy like Rich Swann, because I know Richie's a really good guy. But at the same time, this whole Cruiserweight division, there is nobody that's standing. Excuse me, gotta get this thing out of here. There's nobody that's really standing out. I mean, you have TJ Perkins, who's your champion, who's not really the focal point of the division. Nobody's the focal point of the division. It's just, here are some Cruiserweights. Look at them fly. There's no real direction in my mind right now.
Yeah, I don't even know. Maybe they do switch the title on Sunday and keep this going, but I don't feel a whole lot of momentum for this at all. And with any of the guys, to be quite honest, I think actually of all of them listed, of the guy that's, to me, getting the most popularity just from an organic standpoint is Rich Swann.
Yeah.
I think he's someone that people are getting into. I think he's got very good personality, great style to watch. He's entertaining, but he's not part of this at all on Sunday.
No.
So
very likable. He's a very likable guy. And for those complaining about, he comes out and he's dancing, very stereotypical. He was doing that before he went to the WWE, guys, if in case you didn't know.
Now, maybe you can give some insight into this, is that when it comes to timing out the show, I mean, you figure these cell matches are going to be given a lot of time, and it seems like they have these matches that are kind of on the back burner and haven't been announced, but they're there in case they need to fill it out. Bayley and Dana Brooke. We've got Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn. Right. I mean, those seem to be kind of back burner matches. We also failed to mention the New Day, not the New Day. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows taking on Enzo and Cass will also be on this show. But I guess we could see some late additions to the show on Sunday.
Absolutely. And the luxury, even though it's a daunting task to sit through the pre-show as well as the pay-per-views on the network, the luxury is, they time out the shows and they could add or subtract from matches, but at the same time, they've got that pre-show where they can say, well, move to the pre-show is this match. So they could open up some time for something else, or they could move one of the matches from the pre-show to the...
Or just tell the panel, you're talking for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Just go. Just blab and blab like I do sometimes.
So I guess the biggest... The most interesting questions are what goes on last, and I think how you differentiate these cell matches.
Exactly, it's going to be a challenge. With three cell matches, to reference like a TNA, for example, when they have their Lethal Lockdown pay-per-view where every match is in a cage. The way they differentiated it by one is a traditional cage match, the other one's got weapons in it. I mean, but it's all cage matches. So
yeah, those ones I will say though. I remember the first Lockdown where it seemed like this is a really bad idea to make all cage matches. And it turned out to be a very good show. And as that Lockdown progressed, it became, well, it's all cage matches, but to make them special, we had to have stipulations on top of the stipulation. And it just became, You were just so bogged down with like just the basic rules of the match, which I don't think people take enough care in the audience being able, the live crowd being able to follow around with some of that. So
at least they didn't do a Kennel from Hell match or something.
That's true. At least the WWE knew when one and done was enough. So there are no dogs on this pay-per-view that we're aware of as of now.
Yes. Yeah.
So there you have it. That is Hell in a Cell. It's going down Sunday night in Boston. We will be live on the lot midnight Eastern after the show, running through it. We'll also have part 2 of our chat with Eric Bischoff, Dave Meltzer, and much more. So you can catch that at liveaudiowrestling.com. Follow him at Jimmy Korderas, at Law Radio, and we will chat with you after Hell in a Cell.